The Adventure of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain Longman Simplified English Series Read by Narumon Pansamrong Chapter 3 Joys and Sorrows Tom stood before Aunt Polly. The soft summer air, the grateful quiet. He sent up the flower and the sleepy murmur of the bee had their effect, and she was nodding in her armchair. Her spectacles were up on her grey head for safety. She knew that Tom had deserted long ago, and she wondered to see him place himself in her power again in this bold way. "May I go out and play now, Aunt?" he said. "What, already? How much have you done?" "It's all done, Aunt." "Tom, don't lie to me. I hate lies." "I'm not lying, Aunt. It is all done." Aunt Polly could hardly believe this, and went out to see for herself. She would have been content to find a quarter of Tom's statement true, when she found the entire fence whitewashed, and not only whitewashed, but carefully coated and recoated. She gasped with astonishment. "Well, I must say, you can work when you try, Tom, but it's seldom that you try. We'll turn along and play." She was so astonished at Tom's performance that she took him to the cupboard and picked out the 5 apples for him. He danced out into the garden and saw six. In a moment the air was full of lumps of earth. They flew round six earth, and before Aunt Polly could come to the rescue, 6 or 7 had hit him, and Tom was over the fence and gone. There was a gap, but generally he was too short of time to make use of it. He was satisfied, since he had punished 6 of calling attention to the black dress and getting him into trouble. As he was passing the house where Jeff Tatter lived, he saw a new girl in the garden. He was a lovely little blue-eyed angel with 2 long tails of yellow hair. At once a girl called Amy Lawrence vanished completely out of Tom's heart. He worshipped this new angel till he saw that she had discovered him. Then he pretended that he did not know she was present, and began to act in all sorts of silly boying ways in order to win her admission. While she was in the midst of some dangerous tricks, he glanced aside and saw that the little girl was going toward the house. Tom came up to the fence and leaned on it, hoping that she would wait a little longer. Tom sighed as she put her foot on the doorstep, but his face lit up at once, for she threw a rose over that face just before she disappeared. The boy ran round, picked up his treasure, and buttered it inside his coat, next to his heart, or next to his stomach possibly, for he was not quite sure where the ones began and the outer end. All through supper he was so grey that his aunt wondered why. She scolded him for throwing lumps of earth acid. But he did not seem to mind in the least. He tried to steal sugar under his aunt's very nose and caused a tap on his finger with a spoon. "Aunt, you don't hesitate when he takes sugar," he says. "Well, this doesn't worry me as you do. You would be always stealing sugar if I didn't watch you." Sis smiled in self-satisfied way, and when the old lady went into the kitchen, he reached for the sugar basin, but his finger slipped and the basin dropped and broke. Now it was Tom's turn to smile, but he controlled his tongue and kept silent. He said to himself that he would not say a word, even when his aunt came in, but would sit perfectly still till she asked who has broken the basin. Then he would tell, and it would be delightful to see that model boy get a good beating. He was so wild with joy that he could hardly keep still. When the old lady came back and stood above, he was so wild with joy that he could hardly keep still. When the old lady came back and stood above a broken piece, looking angrily over her spectacles, he said to himself, "Now she's going to his seat," and the next instant he was flat on the floor. Her palm was uplifted to strike again when Tom cried out, "Hey, why are you hitting me? She broke it." Aunt Polly paused, and Tom looked at her for healing pity. But when she had recovered from her surprise, he only said, "Well, I'm sure you deserve it. No doubt you were in some mischief while I was in the kitchen." Then her conscience pricked her, and she longed to say something kind and loving. But she judged that this would be taken as a confession that she has been in the wrong, and this swift life forbade that. So she kept silent and went about her housework with a troubled heart. Tom sat gloomily in a corner and nursed his sorrow. He knew, through tearful eyes, that she glanced tenderly at him now and again, asking for forgiveness, but he refused to take any notice. He imagined himself lying on his deathbed, and his aunt bending over him, begging for one little forgiving word, but he would turn his face to the wall and die without saying the word. Ah, how would you feel then? And he imagined himself brought home from the river, dead, with his collar all wet, and his poor hands still for ever, and his broken heart at rest. She would throw herself upon him, and her tears would fall like rain. She would pray God to give her back her boy, and promise she would never, never ill-treat him any more. But she would lie there, cool and pure, and make no sign. Poor little sufferer! He was so affected by this vision that he has to keep on swallowing. His eyes swam in tears which overflow and ran down from the end of his nose. He was enjoying his sorrow so much that any cheerfulness was unwelcome. When his cousins Mary danced in, delighted to be come again after a week's visit to the country, he got up and moved in cloud and darkness out at once, though as she brought sunshine in as the outer. His unhappy heart desired to be alone and so be wander far away from the place where boys usually meet. A log raft on the rivers invited him. He sat down on its outer edge and gazed at the wide river, wishing that he could be drowned at once without suffering the usual pain. Not long after, as Tom was undressing for bed, Sis woke up. He said nothing. He knew from the expression on Tom's face that it would be under to ask him any questions. Tom got into bed without saying his prayer, and Sis made a note of this bad behavior